Hey guys, what's up? It's the Merc here from Poolshed Games, and today I'm going to talk to you about a very highly contested topic on the forums and on YouTube where the miniature wargamers go to. And that topic is Age of Sigmar. Now, a couple of caveats right out of the gate. One, I have not played Age of Sigmar yet. I don't know if I will. It looks interesting enough. I'm kind of holding off for a few months to see what all we're given between now and, a few months down the road. And the second caveat is, if you remember, I had no love for 8th edition. Didn't think it was a good edition of the game, I thought it was boring, and it's what drove me out of Warhammer Fantasy. Along with just a general falling out of Games Workshop's policies and politics. But, those caveats out of the way, I want to talk to you about Age of Sigmar, and my feelings about it. So right out the gates. I want to say I understand why a lot of gamers are pissed off. There's a part of me deep down inside that doesn't want to have any compassion for the gamers that are pissed off, because I think a lot of them are the same people that told me and others that like 7th edition when it came out to suck it up and either just keep playing the edition with the edition you like, or learn to evolve with the times. And I think the shoe is kind of on the other foot here. There's a new game out, guys. Evolve or keep playing the edition you like. But, with that being said, the shift from 7th to 8th was not nearly as harsh as the shift from 8th edition to Age of Sigmar. Granted, Games Workshop, they put up the 4-page rules pamphlet online for free. So if you wanted to see what Age of Sigmar was all about, you could download that rules pamphlet and read it and know the rules before you even thought about buying the starter or anything for it. Fair enough. Number 2, they did port all of the 8th edition Warhammer armies into Age of Sigmar. They gave them War Scrolls, and they made them free. Free to download off of their website. This is where I understand some of the pissed off, the rage feeling, because those War Scrolls were bullshit. I mean, they worked, and I can see some of the rules, and some of the rules are actually interesting, but they felt so shoehorned and ham-fisted that it was like, we're just doing this so you can use your old models, and, don't bitch. Just take what we've given you and be happy. That was the feeling I got reading through them from Games Workshop. Because there's just stupid rules in there, like, if you're playing Demons or Chaos and you have the Mask of Slaanesh, and you do one of her abilities, if you dance, you get bonuses. Or if you're playing Dwarves and you have a unit of Dwarven Longbeards and you grumble about something at the beginning of your turn, everyone within so many inches of that unit gets bonuses. It's stuff that you might do on occasion while playing with friends just as a lark or a joke, that they've turned into rules to get bonuses. That's really just what made me think that the old armies and the War Scrolls were not meant for this edition. Now, I will say, I don't feel that the rules for the old armies are going to stay what is in those War Scrolls. And there's evidence of that already in the 296-page hardback book that GW put out for Age of Sigmar, because there's rules for Treemen, for Dryads, and Branch Wraiths. They're all called new things, but they're all those models. And they seem to fit into the Age of Sigmar rules a hell of a lot better than the stuff from the old War Scrolls did. So, I feel like if you're willing to hold out, if you're willing to wait and see what War Scrolls are going to come down the pipeline, the old armies are going to be reimagined and put into the game as a more fitting examples of how they should work in the game. Still, completely understand why people are pissed. I read through the Dwarf one and I was like, this is dumb. Excuse me. Yeah, I was like, this is dumb. But that aside, I've watched games of the two starter box armies against each other. They seem relatively balanced. It seems like they're designed for this system, and that's kind of what we should be expecting. Other things I can understand to an extent why old Warhammer Fantasy players are pissed off about. This isn't a game of ranked units anymore. it's a skirmish game. Just plain and simple, it's a skirmish game. I mean, it's a skirmish game where you can have a lot of stuff on the board. You can play big battles, but your models are still going to be skirmishers. You're still going to have to either like move them one at a time, make special movement trays, or just push them around. The other thing is bases don't matter. You can have them on square bases, round bases. Really, I think, if you wanted to put them on oblong bases, you fucking could. It doesn't matter. Because all measurements are from models. They're not from the base. So say I have a spearman that wants to, go attack somebody. Instead of measuring from the base, or even from, like, the core of the model, like the center of the model, I measure from the very, very tip of the spear. And the model can't go any farther than the very, very tip of that spear, if that's where you're measuring from. So, it's dumb. It's stupid. I saw a battle report that Mini Wargaming did, where you can't be within 3 inches of another model, and I think it was Steve had to move his guy back because he was within 3 inches of the horn of the new Chaos monster in the starter set. It's fucking stupid. It just is. And the other thing you have is base overlap. Because bases don't matter, you can... And most people won't do this. Most people that are decent, have played the game for a while, and understand the love that we put into our models, won't be dicks and put their model on top of your model's base. However, some people do. And that would just infuriate me, because if I've spent time painting and basing my models, and you come along and put your model's base on top of mine, I'm probably either going to ask you to not do it again, or, just resign myself to never play you again after the game is over. So, an easy fix to that is just make all measurements from the model's base, or make all measurements from the center of the model. It's not that hard to do, and, just easy fix. And the last thing that I've seen a lot of people bitching about is there's no point system. There's no point system, there's no way to there's no army creation system at all. It's put down what you want to play. I know from watching some of the people do reviews of the new 296-page rulebook, the scenarios in it say that each person selects their army in secret, and then you deploy it. Boom. No points. Doesn't matter. Bring what you want to bring. And it feels like Apocalypse to an extent in that regard, because back when Warhammer 40k Apocalypse came out, it was play with your whole model collection. And I have no problem with this. I have played Tomorrow's War, I have played Force on Force, I have played historical Civil War games, where there are no point limits. The Civil War game, granted, had a formation list that said, these were the forces that fought in the battle, this is how they arrived, this is, basically what to use. And a lot of Force on Force has campaign books where it's like, this was the Battle of Fallujah. This Marine units and these insurgent units were present. Play it this way. But Tomorrow's War doesn't have that. Tomorrow's War is a sci-fi game where there's no points, and you just create scenarios and you play through the scenarios. They give you a general idea of what units and things should be present, but you don't generally have a point system. And I know there was a point system in the works for Tomorrow's War, so that might not be the case anymore, but it wasn't an official thing. It was something that the community had put out. So, what do I think no points means? I think it means people that love to build lists, and people that like to try to wring the most out of their lists, like the most power, the most ability, the most potential to win. I think they're gonna be disappointed, because you can't do that anymore. You can't sit down and make the stupid unkillable Dreadlord for Dark Elves with the inverse ward save and stupid things like that. You can't build the Super Mage for High Elves that just, would ruin the game. You can't go on to, like, Warseer anymore and find a net list that has won every tournament it went to and just build your army around that. And to me, I think that's a good thing. I think it takes away an aspect that slowly crept into Warhammer that was prevalent in collectible card games, and was one of the reasons I stopped playing them, which was, if you have the money, you can win. if you're willing to build this list that someone has, just min-maxed to the extreme, you'll win. And yeah, I know that one of the big complaints is going to be, well, if people are willing to spend money to just get an ass load of models, they're going to win. Okay, so they spent an ass ton of money on models. There's still the sudden death condition, which if you achieve it, you win. And there's also this little thing in, more so in miniature wargaming than in like card gaming, which is social interaction. The game is kind of like a social contract. Before you sit down to start playing, at least if you're playing with friends, and even if even if you go to your friendly local gaming store, after a while you get to know the people there, you guys can have conversations. You're going to sit down and you'll talk about like what you're going to bring and what kind of game you want to play. And maybe you want to do an awesome, like, how long can this small group of like maybe elite units and heroes survive against a horde of fodder? Play it. Have a guy bring like 100 or 200 goblins and like orc boys and play, like a Stormcast Eternal, a small Stormcast Eternal list against them, or run a massive Skaven horde against a small army of Stormcast Eternals, or dwarves, or like Empire Knights, and just see how long you last. And then after the game is over, switch sides and do it again, just with the player who was Skaven now is the Mother Force, and the guy who was the Elites playing the Horde. I guess it becomes less about winning the game and more about experiencing the game. More about, and I know I hate to say this because it's something that GW has harped on a lot in the newest edition of 40k, it's about forging a narrative. And it's a lot less about looking at the game as a I win or you win, I win, you lose, or I lose, you win scenario. And it's a lot more about, this is a way to spend my evening or a weekend with my friends. If you want a super competitive game with a tight rule set, army building, balance, play War Machine. That's what War Machine is, and it's great for it. But sometimes you don't want to play that. So that's the way I feel on that. I also feel that to truly get the idea of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, you have to look at it as a new game. And maybe because I wasn't invested in 8th edition, or maybe because I'm one of those guys that has always been kind of like looking for new games. I always want to play something new, especially once I broke away from Games Workshop. I'm really able to come into a gaming system and go, well, what is this worth on its own merits? And I feel that we have to look at Age of Sigmar as a brand new game to truly appreciate it, or to even truly begin to judge it. And I don't feel that we can judge it right now, because right now we only currently have 2 armies that have been specifically built for the edition, which are the Stormcast Eternals and the new Khorne Blood Reavers, or whatever they are. And we have a handful of Wood Elf Tree Spirit units that came with, that were introduced with the big rulebook that came out. Aside from that, there are no armies for the game. Yeah, all the old world armies are war scrolled in, but they're not built for the game at hand. They are just there to let people keep playing with their old models until new rules come out for their old models or new models come out. And I really feel like we can't properly judge this game until we are 4, 5, or even 6 months down the road, and hopefully there are at least 3 or 4, maybe 5 factions out, and they have their war scrolls and their rules, and we can sit down and we can compare those, which are all rules that were created for this system specifically in mind, and then we can either go, this game is going to work, or it is rubbish. I don't think it'll be rubbish. I don't know if it'll be worth spending lots and lots of money on. Like I said, I've thought about buying into Age of Sigmar. I thought about getting the starter set because I can find it on Amazon for like $80. Why wouldn't you do that? And here's the beautiful thing about YouTube. We as gamers, we're kind of spoiled now because there's communities out there. There's our community here at the channel. There's a little over 100 of us now. And then there's the connections I've made through this channel. And then there's the big powerhouse gaming channels out there like Beasts of War and mini wargaming, and one that I think is a growing contender, which is Guerrilla Miniatures Gaming, which is Ash from the Tabletop Media Co-op, and they give us information. Now, granted, sometimes the information we get is different in its delivery, and it's shown me kind of what this game is. And I kind of want to, just as a closing thing here, I want to talk about the coverage I've seen of Age of Sigmar. First, I want to talk about Mini Wargaming. I like Mini Wargaming. I'm subscribed to their channel. I haven't gotten a Vault membership yet. I'm not sure if I ever will. But their free content is good enough for me. I like their Infinity Battle Reports. They've kind of helped me learn the game a little bit better. I like their 40k Battle Reports, because while I did get this Guittari book, I'm probably never going to build another 40k army. But it's fun to watch. So that's good. And sometimes their Old World Wars, their Old Warhammer Fantasy Battle Reports are fun to watch. But recently they've been doing Age of Sigmar reports. And when Age of Sigmar came out, Mini Wargaming made no attempt to disguise their contempt for the game. They had a couple of games where they were just focused on how bad it was, on how it wasn't Warhammer Fantasy anymore. And you know what? That's fine. If you don't want to like it, you don't have to like it. Nobody's forcing you. But after those couple of games where they were talking about how bad it was, how unplayable it was, they did a couple of release event videos, and now they're doing a new Age of Sigmar series. And the series isn't terrible, it's just not good. It's the fact that you have two guys playing through the scenarios from the starter box. And I don't know if they've moved on to other things yet or not, I haven't really watched. And just the whole time, it felt like they were doing a chore rather than doing something they wanted to do. I totally understand, they work for a company, and if they were told, hey, make Age of Sigmar games for people to watch, that's what they did. The downside of that is you can tell that they didn't really want to be playing it, because just their voice tone, the tonality of their voice, the jokes they made, and just the overall enthusiasm for the game wasn't there. And like I said, I'm not saying if you don't want to like this game, don't like it. That's fine. But if you're going to make content and try to show people the game, at least do your best to showcase the game in a non-biased manner. Don't blatantly get rules wrong. Don't just subtly paint the game in a negative light. Just little things like that. It's like I said on Twitter a couple days ago, I don't understand why people are making Age of Sigmar content that don't want to make Age of Sigmar content. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. It's fine. Nobody's going to judge you for it, but just don't do it. Whereas, a complete contrast to that would be Ash over at Guerrilla Miniatures Gaming and the Tabletop Media Co-op. Kudos to him for, first of all, making a great channel, but his Age of Sigmar content has been really enjoyable. The first game that they did had me feeling apprehensive about the entire thing, because it was him and Owen from Beat the Cooler, or Gaming with the Cooler, and they did old armies, which was ogres versus chaos, and the ogres just crushed the chaos. And it was also kind of one of those things where it just didn't feel like it worked. But after that, there was Ash did a game with the starter box contents versus each other. It was really well. I thought it looked like a balanced game. It looked fun, and it was two armies designed for the system, which kind of proved my point in my mind that we can't really judge this game until more things are out that were designed specifically for it. Then he did another game, which was his Stormcast Eternals versus another player's Tomb Kings, and surprisingly enough, it was rather balanced, and I think part of this is because they both sat down before the game and talked about what they were going to bring, what kind of game they were going to play. Ash has come up with his own comp for a pseudo point system, so you have that. And each time I've watched a game on the channel, they're having fun, they're enjoying themselves. I mean, they might make offhanded comments about things that seem a little weird, wonky, or don't work with the rules, but there's just this general tone of, trying to just convey the game to you the best way they can, rather than like a subtle undercurrent of, I don't want to play this is stupid, why are we doing this? So that's my feelings on YouTube. And I know a couple of other people have done Age of Sigmar reports, Age of Sigmar games, and I haven't watched a lot of them because a lot of them have been with the old armies, and I don't think that's a good way to gauge how this game as a system in general is going to work. So that's my feelings on that. So overall, what are my feelings on Age of Sigmar? Like I said, I'm tempted to buy a starter set. I think it would be an interesting game to take to school with me and play with my friends up there, because it's a simple game to pick up, but there's a lot of complexity I think hidden inside with like order of activation, how you layer your models, things like that. Do I think it's a proper successor to Warhammer Fantasy Battle? No. Warhammer Fantasy was always ranked combat, at least that I knew. Always ranked combat, always that like the maneuver game. And I think if you want that, you're much better off going over to Manic Games and picking up the second edition of Kings of War, because that's what that game is. I don't know what to call Age of Sigmar. It's kind of like a mass skirmish game that's a combination of a lot of different games. There's some elements of War Machine thrown in there. There's some elements of Warhammer Fantasy. And there's some elements of like old Mongoose publishing Starship Troopers and Battlefield Evolution, where you had target to hit numbers and then you had target to wound numbers, and you didn't compare unit profiles. I think there's some minor tweaks that would make the game better. Like I said, either make all measurements from the base, or make all measurements from the center of the model and don't allow base overlap. And the other thing that drives me crazy is occasionally you have first turn charges. I don't know how you would stop that from happening unless you made deployment zones smaller. Because, I mean, currently its deployment zone is one guy gets half the table, the other gets half the table. And you have to be, I think, 12 inches away from an enemy model, or 18, which you can run in your movement phase and then charge. So, whatever. I think if you just made deployment zones smaller, it would be a better game, all in all. So, I think those two fixes. I'm not bothered by there not being a point system. I don't care. I think if you want to play, you can talk to your opponent and come up with something. But for people that want one, I guess it would be nice to see one eventually. But right now, my feelings are, I can't judge this game. I can't judge this game until 5 or 6 months down the road, when hopefully there's 3 or 4 or 5 factions out, and there's more scenarios, and just more rules in general, because then I'll be able to judge it on its own merits, rather than trying to judge it as a new edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which it's not. So there you go, guys. There's my feelings on Warhammer Age of Sigmar. I don't expect people to agree with me. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of people on the comments telling me why I'm wrong, or other assorted things, and that's okay, because we're all different. We don't have to agree. But I just wanted to get my feelings out there a month in, and just kind of let you guys know what I thought about it. So that's it. Hopefully you liked the video. If you did, leave us a comment, give it a thumbs up. If you have something to say that's counter to what I think, leave it. I'll read it. But until next time, we'll see you here at Bullshit Games.